did.
These are tough.
You know I like to sit in the
Well,
car.
because you use it. Yeah.
Just sit down. We'll sit back here.
You know what? The quality is not as long as it's happening as it is to something. Because it gets to the point where you want to scream.
I just look and stare.
Right in on the wall, stop up in the corner.
Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second that. Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall, approve the minutes of last meeting. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve item number 5 as listed on the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall to approve item 5 on the agenda. Payments of the electronic transfers and cash disbursements. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, we are pleased to present the years of service recognition for 35 years to Patricia Leniak. Patricia, come on.
I didn't tell Patsy, so she's wearing cleaning clothes.
Congratulations.
Because she
Thank you
wouldn't
for
have
your
come.
services to the county.
Thank you.
Did you start here right out of high school?
No,
A little later.
A little later.
Okay.
And we wish you all the best in your retirement.
Thank you.
the county's really gonna miss Patsy because there is not an employee in this courthouse any better than she is. And the way she treats everyone, anyone who comes in the office with professionalism and courtesy and kindness. And when you're her customer, you're the only person in the room. You're the most important person in the room. That's a rare, rare quality. So, thank you so much, Patsy. You
Thank
made me
you,
look
Patsy,
good for all
yes.
these years.
Thank you, bye.
Motion to approve item number 5. 7. 5. We're on 7.
7.
Number 7 on the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall, approve item 7 on the agenda. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve item number 8 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that. Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall to approve item 8 on the agenda. Questions or comments? Bruce?
Can you explain what it is, please?
Nick Sarasic is here from Johnson Controls. He's part of this project. Nick, if you want to give a brief overview.
Sure. Basically, this is a way for the county to take advantage of natural gas, the arrival of natural gas in New Montrose, to address a lot of the infrastructure issues in this building, in the Warren building, in the Annex building, potentially the jail as well. Because as anyone who's walked through this building knows, there's a lot of infrastructure challenges, we'll say, with portable cooling equipment, with the heating systems, and a coal-fired boiler that is troubling for passing inspection and high on operational costs. So this is a way to both simultaneously improve the infrastructure while reducing the cost to operate the buildings. So you'll both save money and renovate the buildings so you don't have your operational issues. So it's a real win-win. We've had some great press recently in Bradford County where we did this. We've also completed a job in Blue Ridge and recently started a major project with Elk Lake as well. So we're doing a lot of these types of projects, and it's really a way for the taxpayer to benefit from the arrival of natural gas.
Very good question.
Yes, I was just wondering, if you did Blue Ridge,
Sure.
did Blue Ridge, what did you find in Blue Ridge that they needed to change? Because I also heard that they decided not to go for natural gas.
Sure. So Blue Ridge, we started that study, basically where we're at here, about 3 years ago.
Oh.
So that was before they even had the option of trying to secure natural gas. And the issues with Blue Ridge were we had opportunities for energy efficiency improvements through such things as lighting, building envelope, and higher efficiency equipment. And similar to this building, They also had equipment that needed to be replaced. It was at the end of its useful life, specifically some rooftop units and some other terminal equipment for heating and cooling. So the combination of capital needs that was in their budget and the opportunity for energy savings was what made that $1.8 million project cash flow. And we are seeing savings above what we projected, which is typical. So that was the impetus of that project, and I've actually recently spoken with them about the arrival of natural gas, and due to the low cost of biomass fuels, which they take advantage of, right now it's not sort of a slam dunk to do another phase of energy project to enable natural gas arrival. So it's something the school district's evaluating. We were helping them with that, but the first phase was independent of the arrival of natural gas.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions? Craig?
I work with Johnson Controls Incorporated.
What's that?
Johnson Controls.
Oh.
Craig?
Yeah, just a quick question. With the instability of the gas prices, they dropped, but they're going to go back up, especially if we do this big rush to save Ukraine and Eastern Europe, or Western Europe. That's my concern, and I'm getting asked that a lot. I know that right now Leatherstocking is trying to put gas lines into Montrose. They're not doing it in Milford until they get 180 people signed, because they have no anchor businesses, and most of the anchor businesses said the same thing I'm saying. So be very cautious. If you're going to do it, do like Montrose High School did, and keep your heating system in place here. If you're going to do it, bring in as a secondary the gas, and when that price goes up 3 times, which it's going to do, you can mark it down today. The price is going to jump, because we're going to be, if we start exporting it, we're going to be trying to compete with Russia and Japan and everybody else that wants the gas. So there's my issue with it is, if it's being produced here, we should be getting it at the lowest possible price. We just shouldn't have to be competing. So I'd like to see anything the county does guaranteeing a price and only being able to go up by the PUC rate, not by just a market rate, which is a big difference. Secondly, there's a massive amount of radon. You can go right in our own county hazardous management plan, read 12 pages about radon. We have the largest amount of radon underneath our ground than anywhere in the United States. If it's going hours to our pipes, through our pipes to here, instead of days to get somewhere else, there's a good chance there are things in the gas still that might negatively affect anybody near it in the building, whether it's a pilot light or your stove. So I would ask the county make sure that whoever's providing natural gas to any building with county employees, that they actually have that gas tested before it gets in this building or before the comes into the line for especially radon, but other VOCs that might still be trapped in there that will not burn off when you run it, just as a safety precaution. The other one is look at the explosions. You just saw what happened in the building in New York City, in Harlem. There's an issue. Natural gas, electricity doesn't do that. Neither does wood chips. You do have fires with electricity, but you don't have explosions that blow buildings apart and all that. As a safety concern, I would just look at every aspect. There are positives, of course, a low price right now. My concern is what happens when the price goes up. Is there things in it we don't want in our homes or businesses? And is there a potential risk factor? We should let the emergency management people look at their own plan and do something with that before we look at doing the thing.
Bruce, you have another comment?
Yeah, I do. Kind of a comment question thing. Are we only looking at natural gas?
The comparison between the natural gas, oil, and electric and geothermal wind, by far the natural gas is the most economical.
Okay, now what if the political winds blow a different way? And to what Craig was saying, even statewide political winds could blow a different way, and natural gas may not be as plentiful, and there might be more restrictions. Then you're stuck with something that you can't afford. So, kind of piggyback
And we'll take
on that.
and we'll review it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve item number 9 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that. Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall to approve item 9 on the agenda. Any questions or comments? Yes.
How did Georgia find out about this?
Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia.
Well, they're now in the new snow belt, so they've decided to move this way. So what it is we continue to look for cost savings. We put this out to bid several times. The last time there was one in New York State we used. We continue to research to try more places that we can save money, and actually this time we're buying direct from the manufacturer.
So you called them.
Yeah.
Is that the way it goes?
Well, anytime we go out to purchase something, we take and go out and solicit bids. Depending on what the item is and the level of the item, it may go out in the paper or periodicals we advertise. Other stuff that we purchase on a daily basis, we solicit bids from, usually 3 different locations.
So if you showed this bid to, for example, and even hypothetically, Liberty Carpet or someone like that, and said if you can match this or beat it, we'd rather go local, is that permissible?
No, we can't show one person's bid price to another and say, you want a bit of better price than this price.
Why not?
No, that's not an ethical situation to do. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve item number 10 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that. Motion to approve item 10 on the agenda by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall. Questions or comments? Yes.
It's a processing manager.
Person that works in the recycling facility that handles all the processing of the recyclable goods.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, you can take her.
Will there be then an opening for an assistant processing manager?
Yes.
And has the recycling plant been put up for bid yet?
No. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Item 11.
Motion to approve item number 11 is listed on the agenda.
I'll second that. Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall to approve item 11 on the agenda. Questions or comments?
How many sheriffs do we have now?
I can tell you off the top of my head, I think there's 6 or 7. Yes,
We just witnessed the swearing in on Monday morning, was that?
that was her.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Motion to approve item number 12 is listed on the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Jean Greco, second by Commissioner Hall to approve item 12 on the agenda. Questions or comments?
What is her position, Shailene Jarnagin?
Deputy Chief Clerk,
And why was she terminated?
personnel issue. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Public comment. Yes.
Nancy Perry from the Women's Resource Center. We had sent up a request for a waiver to be signed. We wanted to apply to the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for a grant to place an advocate in our Montrose office to work with teens and young adults who might be experiencing dating violence, unhealthy relationships. I sent it to Connie to be signed. It's something that we need to have signed by the commissioners before we can apply for the grant.
When you send it up?
Last week.
So I know we talked about that, but I'm not sure I actually did get that. Let me
Yeah.
go back and look a little bit. We'll take care
Okay,
of
I mean,
it.
if you can just approve it and then you can sign it later, it's, if you have any questions.
Okay, take a look at it.
Can I ask her what's involved in the grant and what are you trying to pursue? Like, what's the goal for your project?
The goal is to have, and this is Melissa Bickelman runs the Susquehanna County office. We have an advocate in our Lackawanna County offices who works with the high schools and the local colleges. And it just, it's an education process, working with teens to understand what a healthy relationship is and what it isn't. They would have a huge presence in the schools, would be the main focus, and it would be a full-time person that would be available to work with the younger population.
Is there some kind of a surge of issues with teenagers and dating and abusive
Nationally,
relationships?
yes.
Nationally?
Yes, I mean, and I really can't find a lot of data in the rural communities, but I mean, it's something that's become more of an issue, especially because of with social media, where they're getting into each other's Facebooks and, phones and all that kind of stuff, and like really harassing them and stalking them, and, there have been issues in the community here where dating violence has been, has caused some issues.
And do we
Thank
still
you.
have a women's resource center in Montrose?
Yes, this is where the person would be, is in Montrose.
All right.
Thank
Bruce, you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know whether to direct it to you.
To the chair.
Would, The grant would go exactly where?
Well, we're not sure, we haven't reviewed it yet, so that's
Okay.
something that.
How
commissioners
would,
need to
how would it be affected? Would a child's teacher be able to reach out? Would the guidance counselor reach out? Would the child reach out? And do we have a history of this happening here that we can turn to and say that the guidance counselor has been getting a lot of reports of, et cetera? That's my question.
Well, that's something that we'll have to look at when we get the packet to review. And then any additional questions, I'm sure you can talk to these people after the meeting.
Would that be something that you could sign without having another meeting?
I'm sorry, what?
Would that be something you could sign without having another meeting?
We'll have to review it first to see what
Okay,
the
because it's
commitment
due
is.
April 8th.
All right.
Well, then how do we get input?
Until I see the packet, I have no idea what it is. Craig, you have a comment?
Yes, not on that.
Oh, that's fine.
I was late to the meeting because it took me 10 minutes to get an oath of office that's sworn by the county office holders. And the reason I got it was I'm comparing it to other state office holders and even federal. The very beginning, of course, says that you obey and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth. So, I'm going to give you a couple examples of why I'd like to see you guys act as swiftly as you did on the Second Amendment issues, as you will on the Article 1, subsection 27. Our own newspaper last week, I mean, you got a pipeline discharge in the county, and of course, it's being investigated. I had a massive dumping on my own property. Nobody seemed to care about that. I was in Harrisburg 2 weeks ago and met with about 8 senators, chief of staff, but one, Senator Volakovich, sat down with me for an hour and a half, looked at all my documents. Senate Bill 411. They want to get permission to use acid mine drainage and put it and use it for fracking instead of clean, just clean water mixed with the chemicals. I don't know about you, but none of them gave me an answer that was, and I went and met with every single one of them. It's a beneficial use, they're calling it. Well, sure it is for the coal industry to get rid of their waste product, which they said would be a $70 billion cleanup if they actually took care of it, just in the state of Pennsylvania. Their game plan is to get permission to truck this all over the state and probably all over the country and use it as a beneficial use. Now, with the amount of well casing failures I'm already seeing endemic, less than 5 years, you're getting a massive amount of well casing failures, or they wouldn't be spending tens of millions of dollars trying to fix the wells that have been already having problems, which I can get you that documentation too. So my concern is, I asked them a direct question, what's going to happen when you put this stuff down? It's very caustic. Is it going to eat up the liners faster than just putting water with chemicals down there? They have no idea. That's a good question the senator asked me, yeah. Good question for you to look at before you ram legislation through. I don't understand using one of the most toxic liquids on the planet, trying to get rid of it. So what we're going to do is go bury it in the idiot's backyard. I'm pointing at myself and all of us around here. Just come and dump it down poles. So that would violate the Constitution of the Commonwealth. So I'd like to see some research done by you guys that either tell them you're not using it. I'd love to see you guys come out just as fast as the Second Amendment stuff that went around and say, no, thank you. Not in the county, not in Susquehanna County. You have that power to do it. You have to. You swear to no uphold. Secondly, you heard what I said earlier, and we can pan it all out. Here's highest price, 3 times propane costs. Propane comes out as the byproduct of the natural gas coming out of our backyards. Why everyone's bill went up by 3 times? You know why? It's all being shipped elsewhere. Just look it up. It's going other places instead of for us. The natural gas is too. Even worse, China is the biggest buyer of coal in the United States right now. They're buying all the U.S. coal that they can get their hands on. So every bit of our natural resource is being extracted. We are, what I said 3 years ago in this room, we're an extraction colony now for anybody that wants our things. You're seeing this big push. It's a joke on TV. All of our elected officials, our U.S. elected officials, we're going to make President Obama let us ship our gas. Well, we can't because even the industry knows they're 3 to 5 years from being able to export anything seriously because they've got to get these plants built and they cost billions of dollars each to do it. So I'm seeing this giant bait and switch. But look who the people are that are going to suffer. If there is a problem, because I know a lot of people in this room don't agree there's any problems, if there is any problems, they're just going to get exacerbated and go much bigger with this rush to get our gas out of the ground and send it elsewhere. Like I said earlier, I'd like to see the county commissioners say that if anybody wants to provide gas to anybody in the county community that we oversee, it has to be done under a public utility rated rate, and they have to apply for any increase after they put it in, which they won't answer the question directly, is the price going to go up? Possibly. That takes all the money you invest to switch over, like the high school for $60,000. You throw that money in well, you might as well burn it for heat, because you're not gonna have that money back in savings if the price jumps. And there's the concern is, nobody's looking at the radon, nobody's looking at anything. I'm just very shocked watching anything in the state where they just look the other way and go, well, we hope that somebody's seeing it. And I'll end with this. We have direct evidence, and it's been turned over to state investigators. There are 3 total on-site inspectors for DEP for not only our county, but all 6 counties attached to us, including Tioga, Bradford, our county, 3. Now, I didn't believe it, so I called them up. They told me, no, there's 33. Then they investigated it. They went to the employee records of DEP. 3 total on-site. We have hundreds of wells just in this county, let alone thousands in the adjoining counties. And I told them that's an emergency situation. Can the county look at just telling everyone, hey, calm down, DEP, do your job. If you have only 3, you have to limit the amount of new permits you put out and anything in our county until we have enough. There should be 6 in this county alone, people from working for DEP, not 3 for the entire 6 counties. That is the most ridiculous thing I've seen. As my father used to say, when there is no enforcement of the law, there is no law. If you have nobody to enforce these things, no wonder why we can go around and find out, hey, there's no permit on this and they're already fracking, and they're supposed to have 3 to 5 site inspections before they start fracking. So we have to call the DEP, hey, thanks for the help, we're understaffed. Where's the Act 13 money going? I hear you guys, you're gonna put Act 13 money for desks and carpeting and painting and all these things we're doing. Where is it for the part where they're supposed to protect us from the problems? Because if we're just doing this like JoJo the circus clown, we're ramming holes in the ground to get gas out and make some landowners some money, that's great for them. What does it benefit any of us if this becomes a giant problem? And we can't go back 5 years, or 5 years from now, we can't go, uh-oh, maybe we should have looked at this a little more seriously. So there's my main concern. I'm all happy about people that are benefiting from this and the low cost now. When the price goes up and nobody gets their royalty checks anymore, you know that's happening. Fastest moving legislation through this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania right now is the Royalty Protection Act. And it's a joke too, because not one of those will change a contract, and Mike's a lawyer and will tell you not one thing they're doing in the State House to make it look like they're doing something, Gene Yaw and Sandra Major and all everybody else, is going to change any contract that I or anybody in this room signed before the date that's passed. That's a joke. It's a giant Ponzi scheme from our own elected officials. You guys should be saying, hey, if it's going to change and go back and grandfather it, that's good. It's not. So everyone in this room that has a lease that doesn't get signed the day after they pass that is going to get ripped off and continue to get ripped off unless the industry is held. There's only one way to fix it. Mike knows it too. Criminal. You make it criminal. That is fraud. When they're stealing money that people were supposed to get. And if they can't change it, go back and change it, then they can make it a criminal act. And the next check sent out, if it's not perfect, Mike knows you go to jail. That's the way you fix these things. Don't do civil. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make an observation. In my township, Forest Lake Township, we started attending township meetings much occasionally 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And 4 years ago, all of the folks who were there, most of them, were so thrilled that the royalties had started coming in and everything was coming up roses. 3 years ago, there were some problems with this and some problems with that. The last 2 years, the main job of the head county supervisor is to keep an eye on the gas industry. And that's what he spends most of his day doing. So just FYI, I mean, it's great people getting rich, but I think everybody's worried about when the big one's coming.
Motion to adjourn?
Anything else? Carol?
Anything that Mike can tell us about the royalties issue in our county, or anything that's being done about the production costs, can that be worked with so that people don't lose so much of their royalties?
Yeah, there's a house bill in Harrisburg they just sold us down the river on, so.
Yep.
And what was
Good luck
that?
with that.
What kind of bill is it? Can you explain
What's a
that?
House Bill? No, I'm not gonna go into it now, but it's House Bill 1684.
1684?
That was the first, yeah, it's a
It's still
1684, but we have
it's still 1684.
1684. I want to know how the vote.
Yeah, I hope they didn't vote on that final version I just gave you.
Well.
And then what would
They
that,
started out doing what Craig wanted, grandfathering it back
Right.
to 1979, so the landowners would have an opportunity to get their costs back. That got wiped out. Now, the newest bill I saw says you absolutely cannot do that.
So you cannot
I'm not getting
grandfather?
started on that here. This is.
Well, you can
But
get
Mike, who's the
started.
sponsors? You know who they are.
It's on the list.
Yeah, Gene on the Senate, Senator Major. That's our own elected official. That's the problem.
Is it
People
gonna
are selling
help,
us down the river.
is it gonna help at all, this bill in any
I
way?
called down there half a dozen times.
Yeah,
Got
no.
started correctly, they were started down the right path, and then you can only guess the gas people got to them and said, geez, you can't do that. They hollered and they changed it. So now it's written all in favor of the gas company.
Yeah,
So there's
no
nothing good for the
response.
landowner in that bill?
Not much. No. A motion to adjourn.
And is there anything we can do for water in our county? Any kind of pipelines for water for the people? We have 6 areas now. I just found a new family with water issues in Rush Township. They're within 1,000 feet of a Chesapeake well, and they had pre-tests, and their water went bad, and they have a filtration system. Is there anything we can do with water lines? Put some money aside for that and get something to municipal water, Montrose, besides the jail? If we can go beyond to
Well, they have
that.
to do the same thing we're doing, which is trying to work with the municipal authorities to try and run a line. And that's what we're looking at now. But unfortunately, the water companies right now are not willing to be an active role in trying to get water and lines into these areas. So that's the issue right now, is if the water companies want to make an investment, or if the municipalities or authorities want to make the investment, then something can be done. But when they don't want to make the investment, then nothing's going to happen. Yes.
I was at the hearing on Monday, and I'm not talking about people. I'm just going to paraphrase what I heard from the attorney from Cabot. And it was a little frightening, because from what she was explaining, she was saying, we own the rights underneath, and based on 2 Pennsylvania laws, we also own the rights above. And what you can infer from that is, we're basically allowing you to stay on your own land. So this is also a land use issue, and that was frightening. Their whole case, when you boil it down to it, we own this, and we own this. We're done. That is frightening.
Right.
Lance Benedict said that's the biggest crowd they've ever had in this building, more cameras they've ever had in this building, even for murder trials. He was shocked, and you know how long Lance has been doing his business here. And that is a preliminary injunction hearing. I hope they're getting ready for if there's a trial. And I'm not even going to mention what it is, and everyone knows what it is, but that went on international news services, national. Everybody in the world is watching, because it has nothing to do with gas drilling. This is about our civil rights. What do we own? What don't we own? Who can come on our property, or say who can or cannot come on our property? I'll tell you what, and I've been saying this every time I come to these meetings. We invited them to come here because we thought it'd be good for us. But when it becomes not good for us and good for them, it's time to start looking at maybe throwing some people out if they're bad actors. And I'll tell you what, we can find you a stack of DEP's own records showing thousands of violations from all the 6 companies doing business in Susquehanna County. You can only be here if you behave. It's like any other civil society. If you're going to do your work and behave. But when you start bossing around the citizens and the taxpayers and telling them what we can't do and what they can do, they have no power over us. This is not corporatism the last time I checked. We're still a constitutional republic. Stop letting these guys rule the roost. They're not. They can be here if they behave, as far as I'm concerned, but they're not showing very good behavior. And I'll answer the question on the water. There was a $12 million loan given. I was at the Penvest hearing in 2010 to build that water line to Demick. It was put in the bank, given to Pennsylvania American Water Company, a forgivable $12 million loan. Alan, and it still didn't happen, and they had the money in the bank, and PAWC's CEO saying that they would build it. How did that, you find out how that got killed, you'll find out where the problem is. By the way, the new director of the Delaware River Basin Commission is a former now VP of Pennsylvania American Water Company. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will, because, hey, I don't mind PAWC, but they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, U.S. corporation for the American water, and they sell a hell of a lot of water all over the country to all industrial use, including oil and gas. It would scare me to have somebody that sat on the approvals for giving away billions of gallons of water from the Commonwealth to get this industrial process done, and now they're in charge of what happens and a regulatory authority, that's a little bit scary to me.
Thank you. Last one.
I was wondering if you can give us some updates on what's being done on the roads, because the roads are getting so bad in Montrose, on the state roads, 706, 29. Can you give us any kind of hope that it's going to be fixed within a reasonable amount of time?
According to PennDOT, we received information from PennDOT that both those roads, 706 and 29, are both roads that are targeted for repairs. Right now, of course, they have been doing some pothole repairs, but right now they're waiting for the weather to break again.
And do you know what kind of repairs and when?
Well, when will be when the weather permits them to be able to do it, and the type of repairs right now is they're trying to do repairs in potholes to take and fill potholes in. As far as major work, 706 is still a 3 or 4 year project from the center of town all the way down to New Milford. That's getting worked on. Each year there's a phase of it that's in place. They also have like 11 bridges getting major work done this year in Susquehanna County too.
Because when I spoke with Eric Zimmer of PennDOT, he's still telling me that there's not enough money and that this year they got 10% less from the state than the previous year. Why is the state giving less money to something that's so necessary? And our roads are in the worst shape that I've seen.
Because they don't have the money to put into it.
And why don't they have enough money with all this money coming in from all the industry?
Well, you've got to look at the tax structure, how much money is coming in from the industry, how much money is coming in from registrations, coming in from fines, all that money there is, and you got to look how Department of Transportation is funded. And the problem that you have is the amount of money that's needed to fund transportation because of the major projects. You know, the bridge projects alone in Pennsylvania, there's not enough money just to replace the bridges that have to be replaced in Pennsylvania. So it's an ongoing problem. It's a problem that many years ago, not enough funding was allocated, not enough capital funding was provided for transportation, and we still have that problem today. So the legislators are working on it. I've been in contact with the legislators. I'm in contact with PennDOT. I sit on the Northern Tier Transportation Committee. We discuss the issues every month. Part of the problem that comes out is the funding for transportation is divided out based on population. So the more populated areas get more funding than the less populated areas. So Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, those are the areas that are getting all the funding. So.
And is that a public meeting, the Northern Tier Transportation Committee? Can the public attend that?
Yeah, it's in Towanda.
Towanda, and then what are the dates? At what times of the month?
I have to get those for you.
But you can
like
just
5 times a month, 5 times a year right now.
Oh, 5 times a year?
Yeah.
And how many bridges are being repaired in our county at this point?
Well, there's several bridges that are getting replaced this year, but there's probably close to, I'd say there's probably at least 40 to 50 bridges getting some type of work this year in Susquehanna County.
Well,
And that's everything from, you know, scouring issues taken care of to bridge replacements. I know like in up in Halsted and Great Bend, there's 2 bridges getting replaced this year in that area. So, and then we have a couple other bridges that are on the site to try and get engineered to get replaced too.
Perhaps
Thank
the
you.
rural counties should get together, Bradford, Susquehanna, Wyoming, etc., and demand that we be taxed more so our roads won't be fixed.
So there you go. Any closing remarks? Yes.
Real quick one, the biggest thing I heard out of the hearing on Monday was it's very dangerous activity, so dangerous they want to put 150 to 500 foot circle around the well pads so that nobody will get injured, to keep one person off, Cabot, oil and gas. And guess what? If it's that dangerous within 500 feet, why do they have them within a couple hundred feet of people's homes? So I would be more concerned about the families that live 24 hours a day near them than I would about somebody that wants to come and take some pictures or video. I find it very interesting that we don't worry, there's no problems. Then why do you want a giant buffer around these things? Because they're dangerous, which is what their lawyer said in the hearing. So just remember, it's their words, not mine.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Girls, Do you have a copy of that with you?
I
If you
have
don't
a copy
it-
of the waiver that needs to be signed, I didn't bring a copy of the whole grant application.
Let me get some information.
Well, we gotta
I wanna
see the
make
whole
sure
thing.
we can.
See if you got it, and you don't wanna hold you up.